Now let's look into the structures in depth and say what each part actually means. Like we see in the very beginning of a report, we write something called an executive summary. A lot of people also call it an abstract. A lot of people also call it an introduction. So whatever you call it is fine. You can say it's an introduction or an executive summary or an abstract. But unlike other introductions or other types of writings, in a report, it is a brief summary of what had happened. So this is where you write straight to the point, because whenever we read a newspaper, there are many times where we do not write the body paragraph. At first, in the first paragraph, if we see that this is a situation where I have a lot of interest in that case, then I can go and write the next few paragraphs, or else I won't. So you must write straight to the point. So as you can see, it's written here that it's like a scientific report. It's a brief summary of the contents. It's worth writing this last when you know the key points to draw out. So now, another thing here is, I've said that it's worth writing this last, but by last I mean that whenever you plan on what you're going to write in a report, all of us do planning, right? I don't know if all of us do it, but most good writers, before they write a report or an essay or a letter or whatever, they plan in their head that what are the things that they are going to write. So by planning this last or writing this last, I mean that after you're done thinking that these are the points that I want to mention, then you provide a summary of those points and then write this, of course, in the very beginning. But if you have the time to write from the second and third paragraphs, in that case, after you're done writing the entire report, then again you can come to the first page and then you can write this introduction part. Okay, it's totally up to you. But what I suggest is plan everything from the very beginning, and then during planning, if you find any extra points, of course you will, and then incorporate all of these points into your first executive summary as your first paragraph. All right. It should be no more than half a page to a page in length. Now this particular part is so-so. Like, I'll not say that this is a rule that you need to follow. It is of course exceptional. There are some of you who have big handwritings and some who have small. There are some of you who cannot write huge things in your exams, like you take a lot of time, and there are some who write a lot. So it depends. The size of your executive summary, it of course depends. Remember, the executive summary is designed to give the busy executives a quick summary of the contents of the report. As I've already mentioned, it's like a quick summary of everything. Now for number 2, now we have the introduction. By introduction, I mean now you are going to write a few sentences, few short sentences, so that later on you can describe in details in the body paragraph. So it sets up what you plan to say and it provides a brief summary of the problem under discussion. It should also touch briefly on your conclusion. So it's like a very short scenario where you are trying to make your readers more interested, right? 3, the main body. So this is of course the main part. This is where we are going to answer ourselves the WH questions that we have already learned. What, how, which, when, where, why, right? So we are going to ask ourselves these questions and we are going to provide the answers in each separate paragraph. I've already mentioned the paragraphing rule to you guys. If not, let me just mention this to you again. Whenever you write a paragraph, we may be unsure of when we should put a full stop and when we should go to the next paragraph, unless they tell you just to write a paragraph. In that case, we know whenever there is just one paragraph to write, it will be a continuous writing. But if it's an essay, if it's a report, if it's a letter, then it's advisable to make sure that your paragraphs are a maximum of 6 to 7 lines each, not sentences, lines. Because in that case, in your copy, if there are 6 to 7 lines in together, and if there is one line gap, and again 6 to 7 lines, it looks presentable. There are some things in life that we of course need to mention psychologically as well. So if the person who is checking your copy, if that person sees that it's very neat with 6 to 7 lines for each paragraph, in that case there is a high chance that you are going to get more marks for neatness as well. Okay? mentioned that it must be carefully structured so that it leads the reader through the issues. By structured, I mean that it needs to go one after the other. You should split it into sections using numbered subheadings related to the themes or areas for consideration for each theme. You should aim to set out clearly and concisely the main issue under discussion and any areas of difficulty or disagreement. So for each of the things that you are going to say, you need to make sure that if there is anything difficult or anything to be disagreed, you will mention those. It may also include experimental results. All the information that you present should be related back to the brief and the precise subject under discussion. So, whatever you are trying to say, you make sure that you also engage your very introduction into it. Okay. Then we see in the very ending the conclusions and the recommendations. So, in the conclusion part, I will particularly write what inferences you draw from the information. Yes, there were a lot of information that I've just mentioned in the main body. Now, what do you think about all of these things, including any experimental results? By you think, I do not just mean your opinions, but the outsider's opinion, what the world thinks should be done in order for this problem to not happen in the future. So therefore, it needs recommendations so that these things do not happen in the future, right? Or these may be included in a separate section. So in the separate section, we see that if you want, we can actually provide another particular paragraph where we will only mention the recommendations. In the recommendations part, it suggests how you think the situation could be improved and could be specific, achievable and measurable. So in the recommendations part, as it's already mentioned here, you need to summarize everything and write that these were the problems and these are the solutions that we think will help the world make a better place. If your recommendations have financial implications, you should set these out clearly with estimated costs. Now, this particular thing is, I don't think that much necessary because, of course, in our HSC exams, we do not need to write costs and benefits and all of these financial parts in details here. But if you want, you can, depending on the topic, if you want to give financial recommendations as well, if you think that these are relevant, in that case, you of course can put it in the recommendation section.